Hello everyone, welcome back to Beer HR. Grab your drink, pull up a chair. This is episode number 6, Learning and Development, Building Skills for the Future. In this episode we are going to talk 5 major points. Number 1, skills based organizations. Number 2, internal mobility. Number 3, leadership pipelines. Number 4, AI and digital learning tools. Number 5, how IBM shifted toward skills first hiring. Let's dive into point number 1, skills based organizations. Let me start with a simple question. What if your degree mattered less than your ability? 10 years ago, that question sounded radical. Today, it is reshaping how global companies hire, promote, and build the future workforce. This is the rise of the skills based organization. A few years ago, IBM faced a major challenge. The company was pivoting toward cloud computing, AI, and cyber security, but much of its workforce had been trained for legacy systems. Leadership realized something uncomfortable. If they only hired based on traditional degrees and old job descriptions, they would never move fast enough. So IBM changed the model. They shifted toward skills first hiring. They removed 4-year degree requirements for many roles. They focused on specific technical capabilities instead of academic credentials. They invested heavily in reskilling programs. What was the result? A broader, more diverse talent pool, faster capability alignment with business strategy, internal mobility increased. IBM wasn't just filling roles, they were building capability. That is the difference. Even companies known for elite hiring reconsidered their approach. Google began recognizing that some of their strongest performers didn't always come from traditional educational pathways. They launched certificate programs and skills based pathways that allowed candidates to prove competence without a university degree. Instead of asking, "Where did you study?" they started asking, "What can you do?" That subtle shift changes everything. It opens the doors for people who have skills but not elite credentials. It reduces bias, it increases agility. And in a fast moving digital economy, skills age quickly. Degrees don't guarantee future readiness, skills do. Let's look at the case where skills beat titles. Let's imagine a company trying to build an AI driven product. They post a job for senior AI engineer, 10 years experience they required. But technology has evolved rapidly in the last 3 years. Someone with 4 years of cutting edge AI work may be more relevant than someone with 10 years in older systems. This is where skills based organizations win. They map current skills inventory, future skills needed, gaps between the two. Then they decide hire, upskill, reskill, redeploy. These four things they decide. It becomes a strategic workforce planning, not reactive recruitment. Even traditional industries are transforming. Walmart has invested heavily in training and upskilling frontline employees into higher skilled tech and operations roles. Instead of treating frontline roles as static, they build pathways. Warehouse associate to automation technician, from cashier to supply chain analyst. By focusing on a skill development rather than rigid role boundaries, Walmart improved retention and internal mobility. Employees could see a future that is powerful. The pace of change is accelerating. The World Economic Forum regularly highlights that millions of jobs will be transformed by automation and AI. The real risk isn't a job loss, it is a skill mismatch. Organizations that cling to rigid job descriptions and degree requirements will struggle. Organizations that think in terms of a skill clusters will adopt. A skills based organizations asks, what capabilities do we need to compete? Where do those skills exist internally? How quickly can we build new ones? That mindset turns HR into a strategic architect. What a skills based organization looks like. That means job descriptions focus on competencies, not pedigree. Internal mobility is encouraged, learning platforms are integrated into performance systems, Skills are tracked like assets. Instead of saying you were hired as a marketing analyst, it becomes you have data storytelling skills, campaign and analytic skills, and stakeholder communication skills. Those skills can apply across multiple roles, and that flexibility increases agility. But here is a deeper shift. Moving to a skills based model requires cultural change. Leaders must stop equating seniority with capability. Managers must value learning over tenure. HR must build transparent skill taxonomies and assessment systems. It is not just a hiring strategy, it is a mindset. Bottom line is, in the industrial age, companies hired for roles. In the knowledge age, companies hired for experience. In the digital age, companies must hire for skills. Organizations like IBM, Google, and Walmart show us that when you focus on what people can do, not just where they have been, you unlock talent that was previously overlooked. And in a world where change is constant, the company that understands its skills inventory is a company that adopts fastest, because the future of work isn't job based, it is skill based, and HR is at the center of that transformation. Let's look at point number 2 of this episode: internal mobility. Unlocking talent you already have. Let me start with a simple scenario. A high performing employee walks into their manager's office and says, I have learned a lot here, but I think it is a time for something new. 2 months later, they resign. Now, here is the painful part. 6 months after they leave, the company hires someone externally for a role that employee would have been perfect for. Sound familiar? That is not a hiring problem. That is an internal mobility problem. A few years ago, Schneider Electric realized something alarming. They were losing strong performers not because of pay, but because of lack of visibility into opportunities. Employees didn't know what roles existed internally. Managers were hesitant to lose good team members. Talent was stuck. So Schneider launched an internal talent marketplace powered by AI. Employees could see open roles, short term projects, and stretch assignments across the organization. Instead of career paths being vertical only, they became dynamic and multidirectional. What was the result? Internal hiring increased significantly. Retention improved. Employees felt empowered. They stopped looking outside because they could see growth inside. That is internal mobility working strategically. Now let's look at Unilever. Unilever faced a similar issue. The business was becoming more digital and more agile, more project based. But traditional job structures were rigid. So they introduced a flexible talent platform where employees could apply for short term gigs internally. Imagine being in marketing but contributing to a sustainability project, or working in supply chain and joining a digital transformation initiative. That cross functional exposure didn't just fill gaps, it built capability, it created agility, it developed leaders faster, and importantly, it kept ambitious employees engaged. Because the biggest reason high performers leave isn't money, it is stagnation. Let's think about this financially. External hiring costs more. Recruitment fees, onboarding time, cultural adjustment, productivity ramp up. Internal hires ramp faster. They know the culture, they understand the systems, they have internal networks. Companies like IBM have heavily invested in mapping employee skills internally to redeploy talent into growth areas like AI and cloud instead of constantly hiring externally. That reduces hiring cost and accelerates a transformation. Internal mobility isn't just about retention, it is about speed. Now imagine the opposite: an organization where managers hoard talent, where employees must resign to grow, where job postings are invisible internally. Eventually, ambitious employees start updating their LinkedIn profiles, and when they leave, the company loses institutional knowledge. What could have been a lateral move becomes a resignation that is preventable. One of the biggest cultural shifts required for internal mobility is this: managers must stop thinking this is my team, and start thinking, I'm developing talent for the organization. That is not easy. At companies like AT&T, leadership emphasized reskilling and internal redeployment during digital transformation. Instead of layoffs as the first responses to skill gaps, they invested in learning pathways and encouraged movement. Managers were measured not just on team performance but on talent development. That changes incentives. Strong mobility system includes transparent internal job postings, clear career pathways, skills visibility across the departments, managers, support for transitions, and short-term project opportunities. It is not accidental, it is a designed. When employees can see a future inside the company, they are less likely to search outside. Here is the truth. Most people don't leave companies, they leave limited growth. When employees feel stuck, unseen, or boxed into a title, disengagement grows quietly. But when they see possibility, energy returns, engagement rises, loyalty strengthens, internal mobility tells employees, we believe in your potential beyond your current role. That message is powerful. Bottom line is, in a world where talent is scarce and skills evolve quickly, the smartest organizations don't just look outside for growth, they look within. Companies like Schneider Electric, Unilever, IBM, and AT&T show us that internal mobility isn't a nice HR program. It is a competitive advantage because when you unlock the talent you already have, you reduce cost, increase agility, and build loyalty. And perhaps most importantly, you send a message to your people your career doesn't have to leave this company to grow. That is the future of talent strategy. Let's look at point number 3 of this episode, leadership pipelines. Building tomorrow's leaders before you need them. Let me start with a tough question. What happens in your organization when a senior leader suddenly resigns? Do you already know who is ready to step in? Or does panic quietly begin behind closed doors? Because here is the truth, leadership gaps don't happen overnight, they happen when succession is accidental. For decades, General Electric was famous for one thing beyond its products, its a leadership factory. GE didn't just hire managers, it manufactured leaders through programs like its Croton Valley Leadership Development Center. High potential employees were identified early. They were rotated across functions, finance, operations, international roles, exposed to different markets and challenges. The idea was simple but powerful. Don't wait until someone becomes senior to start developing them. Build capability years in advance, and here is the result. GE produced CEOs not just for itself but for other global companies. That is what a leadership pipeline looks like. Not a list of names, but a development ecosystem. Now let's talk about Procter and Gamble. P&G is known for its strong promote from within culture. Most of its senior leaders started in entry level roles. Why does this matter? Because from day one, employees know leadership is possible internally. But here is the key, it is not luck. P&G invests heavily in structured development, mentoring, stretch assignments, and cross functional exposure. They don't just evaluate performance. They assess potential and they prepare people before positions open. So when leadership transitions happen, they are smooth, not reactive. Today's business environment is unpredictable. Digital disruption, AI transformation, market volatility. You can't afford leadership gaps. Organizations like McKinsey and Company frequently highlight in their research that companies with a strong succession planning outperform those without it, especially during crisis. Because when uncertainty hits, prepared leaders step forward confidently, unprepared organizations scramble, leadership pipelines reduce risk. Here is where many companies go wrong. They assume top performers automatically become great leaders, but technical excellence doesn't always equal leadership capability. A brilliant engineer may struggle managing people. A strong salesman may not know how to coach a team. Companies like IBM have invested in identifying leadership competencies separately from role performance, focusing on collaboration, strategic thinking, and adaptability. Leadership development is intentional, not automatic. Traditionally, leadership pipelines were static succession charts. Who replaces the VP if they leave? But today, it is broader. Rotational programs, cross functional exposure, international assignments, mentorship and sponsorship, executive coaching, leadership simulations. Companies like PepsiCo are known for structured leadership programs that move talent across geographies and business units, accelerating readiness that builds resilience. Here is something deeper. When employees see a clear path to leadership internally, engagement rises. Why? Because they see a future. Leadership pipelines are not just a succession tools, they are motivation systems. They signal we are investing in you long term. Without that signal, high potentials often leave, especially in competitive industries. Now imagine the opposite. No clear successors, no development programs, no mentorship. A senior leader exits, the company hires externally, the new leader struggles to adapt culturally, morale drops, productivity dips, all because the development wasn't proactive. Leadership gaps are expensive financially and culturally. Here is a big takeaway. Leadership pipelines aren't about filling future vacancies. They are about designing the future of your organizations. Companies like GE, Procter and Gamble, Microsoft, IBM and PepsiCo show us that leadership isn't an accident, it is engineered. The question every HR leader and executive must ask is, if your top 5 leaders are left tomorrow, would you be ready? Because the strongest organizations don't wait for leadership crisis. They build leaders before they need them. And that is what separates the stable companies from enduring ones. Let's discuss the point number 4, AI and digital learning tools, reinventing how organizations build skills. Let me start with a simple scenario. Imagine it is a 2015. An employee wants to learn data analytics. What happens? They wait for HR to schedule a workshop, maybe attend a 2-day classroom training, then go back to their desk and forget half of it within a week. Now, fast forward to today, the same employee logs into a digital learning platform. AI recommends a personalized course path. They watch micro lessons between meetings, complete hands on simulations, get nudges to practice in real time. That is not the future, that is already happening. Let's talk about IBM. A few years ago, IBM realized something critical. The half life of skills was shrinking. Technology was evolving so fast that traditional training cycles couldn't keep up. So IBM introduced AI-driven learning system that analyze an employee's current role, their skills profile, business demand trends, career aspirations. The AI then recommends a personalized learning journeys. Instead of a generic training calendars, employees receive tailored development suggestions. It is like having a career coach powered by data. And here is the impact. Employers don't just learn randomly, they learn what the business actually needs. That is a strategic upskilling. Now think about how professionals learn today. Platforms like LinkedIn integrated learning directly into career profiles through LinkedIn Learning. When someone updates their role, searches for jobs, or explores career paths, the platform suggests relevant courses. Learning becomes contextual. It is not a separate event, it is embedded in career progression. This shift is powerful because modern employees don't want to wait for permission to grow, they want access. AI and digital tools provide that access instantly. Consider Amazon. Amazon committed billions of dollars to upskill hundreds of thousands of employees through programs like Career Choice. But here is what makes it modern. They use digital platforms to deliver learning at massive scale. Warehouse workers, tech employees, corporate teams all can access structured learning paths. Some transition into cloud computing roles, others into logistics management. Digital learning tools make scale possible. Without technology, upskilling that many employers would be operationally impossible. Here is where it gets interesting. AI doesn't just recommend courses, it maps skills across the organization. Companies like Workday integrate a skills cloud technology that identifies what skills exist internally, what skills are emerging, where the gaps are. This allows HR to move from reactive hiring to proactive development. Instead of saying we don't have AI engineers, let's hire externally, they can ask which employees are closest to this skill set. How can we reskill them? That reduces hiring costs and improves retention because employees see growth opportunities internally. Traditional training was one size fits all. Today, AI driven platforms offer bite sized learning modules, real time feedback, adaptive assessments, gamified experiences. Think about language learning apps. They adjust the difficulty based on performance. Corporate learning platforms not do the same. If you master a concept quickly, the system advances you. If you struggle, it reinforces the topic. Learning becomes a dynamic, not static. During the COVID 19 pandemic, organizations had no choice but to digitize learning. Classrooms shut down overnight. Companies that already invested in digital platforms adapted quickly. Those that didn't struggled. Digital learning became not just convenient but essential. Organizations realized something powerful. Learning must be continuous, accessible, and scalable, and AI makes that sustainable. But here is the catch, technology alone doesn't create development. You can buy the most advanced AI platform in the world. But if managers don't encourage learning, if employees don't see career pathways, if skills aren't tied to promotions, the platform becomes a library nobody visits. Companies that succeed, like IBM and Amazon, connect digital learning to real career mobility. That is the difference. Bigger picture here is AI and digital learning tools are shifting learning and development from event based training to continuous capability building, from generic content to personalized growth, from HR driven programs to employee driven journeys. And this matters because the future of work is skills based. Degrees matter less, adaptability matters more. Organizations that can reskill faster will outperform those that hire slower. Bottom line is AI is not replacing human learning, it is enhancing it. It is giving HR visibility into skills, giving employees ownership of growth, and giving organizations agility. The real question isn't should we invest in digital learning? It is can we afford not to? Because in a world where skills expire quickly, the companies that learn fastest win fastest. Let's look at point number 5 of this episode, how IBM shifted toward skills of first hiring. Let me take you back a few years. Picture a hiring manager at IBM reviewing resumes for a cybersecurity role. The stack is tall. Most resumes look impressive. Top universities, advanced degrees, long academic credentials. But there is a problem. The business is changing faster than degrees can keep up. Cloud computing is expanding, AI is accelerating, cyber threats are evolving daily, and IBM leadership starts asking a bold question. What if we are screening out capable people simply because they don't have a 4-year degree? That question sparked a major shift. IBM analyzed its own workforce data. They discovered something surprising. Many high performing employees didn't have traditional 4-year degrees. What they had were skills, coding skills, problem solving skills, technical certifications, practical experience. At the same time, IBM noticed a talent shortage in critical tech roles. The old hiring filters, especially bachelor's degree required, were shrinking the talent pool. So IBM made a strategic decision, shift from degree first hiring to skills first hiring. Around 2018, IBM publicly announced that many roles would no longer require a college degree. Instead, they focused on demonstrated skills. This wasn't a PR move, it was a business decision. Because the company needed talent and fast, they began identifying what they called new collar jobs, roles that require specialized skills but not necessarily traditional academic pathways. Think cybersecurity analysts, cloud support specialists, data technicians, AI operators. The emphasis shifted from where did you study to what can you do. That is a powerful change. But IBM didn't stop at removing degree requirements. They built systems to support skills based hiring. They invested heavily in digital learning platforms. They mapped internal skills across their workforce. They used AI tools to identify emerging skill gaps. And they created training pathways for employees to reskill into in demand roles. This wasn't just hiring differently, it was redesigning the entire talent ecosystem. Let's look at why this was a strategic, not social. Yes, skills first hiring improves access and diversity. But for IBM, this was about competitiveness. The half life of technical skills is shrinking. New technologies emerge every year. Traditional education systems can't update curriculum that fast. So IBM realized if we wait for universities to produce perfectly qualified graduates, we will fall behind. Instead, they partner with community colleges, coding boot camps, and apprenticeship programs. They build alternative pipelines and they focused on potential plus capability. That gave them speed, and speed is a strategic advantage. IBM wasn't alone. Companies like Google and Accenture also began shifting toward skills based credentials and certifications. Google even launched career certificates that act as alternatives to degrees for certain tech roles. The labor market started evolving because companies realized something important. Skills are more predictive of performance than pedigree. Here is where it gets even more interesting. IBM did not only apply skills first thinking externally, they applied it internally. Employees could reskill through digital learning. AI tools would recommend career pathways based on their current capabilities. If someone in customer support showed strong analytical skills, they could transition toward data roles. The company stopped thinking in terms of job titles. They started thinking in terms of skill clusters. That is modern workforce design. So, what changed? The talent pool expanded dramatically. Hiring became more inclusive. Skill gaps were addressed faster. Employees saw clearer growth opportunities. And in a competitive tech landscape, that agility matters. IBM didn't just fill roles, they built adaptability into their workforce. Now, let's be honest, skills of first hiring isn't simple. It requires clear skill definitions, structured assessments, hiring manager training, updated job descriptions, internal learning infrastructure. You can't just remove degree requirements and hope for the best. You need systems. IBM invested in those systems. That is why the shift worked. The bigger lesson is here's a bigger story. The world of work is moving toward a skills economy. Degrees still matter in many fields, but they are no longer the only signal of capability. Organizations that prioritize demonstrated skills adapt faster, access broader talent, increase diversity, future proof their workforce, and that is exactly what IBM set out to do. Bottom line is skills first hiring isn't about lowering standards. It is about redefining them. It is about asking, can you do the job? Not just where did you study? IBM's shift wasn't just a hiring update, it was a strategic transformation. Because in a world where technology evolves constantly, the companies that hire for skills stay ahead of change. Let's conclude this episode of a Bigger HR series. We explore how IBM reinvented hiring by shifting from degree based requirements to skills first talent strategy. By focusing on what candidates can actually do, IBM expanded its talent pool, accelerated digital transformation, and future proofed its workforce, proving that skills, not pedigree, drive modern business success. Thanks for listening to Bigger HR. Uh, Thank you. Have a nice day.